adventure and some scares 90s style as mankind faces total destruction in Doctor Who.
Well, it's finally time, and believe me, I've been very excited to finally get started on this project, and the best way to pilot it off is to start with movie night. Now, around a year ago, you'll probably remember that I did a review of a Big Finish audio drama called The Chimes of Midnight. I probably mentioned at the time, I don't remember if I'd even had it fully planned, but I announced around the turn of this year that I'd be starting a review of every single Eighth Doctor project. This was a stupid idea. And it certainly wasn't going to happen in 2023, which, to be honest, I've been going through various things this year, and as of right now, the reason why movie nights had to stop entirely and Saturday mornings is because I work now. I'm back at work. New job. Which it takes the vast majority of my Saturday mornings are taken up by it. And while I still have my Friday nights, and I'm still doing the watching portion of movie night, what the fuck is wrong with the lighting? Okay, so I haven't been able to film. Now, there was one particular movie night that I didn't really want to film. I know I said I was doing a Narnia one. I can't release that. I wasn't particularly pleased with the quality. And yeah. So, without further ado, I'm going to introduce the movie night, and then, because I need to check the way this is all saving, I'll cut the recording and then we'll get into the actual review. So, today's movie night is Doctor Who the movie, the 1996 TV movie. This is going to be an interesting one. Okay, so having tried some natural lighting for that, this should be better, hopefully. Yeah, so the Doctor Who TV movie was released in May of 1996, after 7 years off the air on BBC One, following Sylvester McCoy's story Survival. Strictly speaking, it's after 3 years because Dimensions in Time, there are people that I know that would kill me for not mentioning Dimensions in Time. So, it stars Paul McGann and Daphne Ashbrook, and I'm going to try and say this correctly, Yi Ji So and Eric Roberts. First of all, I love this movie. I always have done. I always will do. The fact is that it's a wonderful time. It's a delight. And Paul McGann is, at this point, most people know this about me by now that care. Paul McGann is my favourite Doctor. Has been since 2012-ish. So 2 years into my time with Doctor Who. And I will get into my proper history with the Eighth Doctor eventually. It was one of the things I had planned for the year of the Eighth Doctor, which, as I said, it hasn't panned out the way I wanted it to. I wanted to release the movie review by May. Well, that hasn't fucking happened, has it? So, the Zelda month Whovember double bill that I was kind of planning is kind of what this is going to fit into. But I don't have time to edit this and the other video I have planned for Whovember. Like, I'm at uni 3 days of the week, and 3 out of 4 of the other days I'm at work. It's not as simple as just sitting down to write and edit a video anymore. And let's be real, it never was even when I had like time to myself. So the TV movie. Let's just get one thing out of the way first. The Daleks are in it for all of 5 seconds, and they were butchered by this film. And it would have been worse if they'd actually shown up on screen. The thing is, the film treats the Daleks like intergalactic lawyers as opposed to what they actually are, which is the deadliest fire in the universe. And that just isn't a good idea. It isn't the way to write the Daleks at all. So it opens up with a narration by the Eighth Doctor saying that his old enemy, the Master, was exterminated on the planet Skaro for his crimes. The novelisation of the movie then adds the detail that while on Skaro, the Master ingested this thing called a Deathworm Morphant, which is how he survives. We are going to get some more understanding of what happened right before the movie soon, because Big Finish are doing a story called The Last Day for the 7th Doctor, and I might cover it, I might not. I don't particularly like reviewing Big Finish, because, to be honest, I don't like this format. I'm already sick of it. So, but the thing is, the reason why I do movie night and Saturday mornings is because they get me back into a regular flow of content making while I come up with the more high profile stuff. But I digress. We're talking about the movie right now, we're not talking about me. So, you'll notice as well that I haven't been able to put the title theme in the intro. I'm being careful because my video got blocked for having the McGann movie intro. It's kind of annoying, actually, as I wanted to format these like real Doctor Who episodes, except not, but at least have the intro. So that's going to have to stay with Chimes at Midnight. But I will say, moving back to the movie, we next get a look at the TARDIS interior of the film, and God, that thing is beautiful. Like, it is my favourite TARDIS. It just is. It's a gorgeous control room, and we should absolutely see that again. Like, come on, just recreate it. Recreate it. I mean, the console still exists. The room itself obviously doesn't. Although, The girders were in that new thing, Tales of the TARDIS, that was released on November 1st. So that's good. So, yeah. The Doctor picks up the Master's remains, locks them in a case. The Master breaks out, wreaks havoc on the TARDIS console, taking them down to Earth. Now, meanwhile, Chang Li is being chased by a gang, a rival gang, or he and his gang try and flee. His gang are gunned down, he's about to be, but then the TARDIS materialises in front of him. The Doctor steps out. Now, the Seventh Doctor is known amongst the fandom and amongst other Doctors as the chess master. He was always playing a long game. He was always planning way ahead. He was the genius out of all the Doctors. He was the smartest one. And he steps out without even checking the scanner. Which people have complained quite a bit about over the years. It makes no sense for the Seventh Doctor to do that. I disagree. There's two explanations. One's canon, one's not. The canon one is that while Seven was captured by a spider, I think he was on Metabelius 3. I don't really know. The Eighth Doctor, who was just recovering from a second bout of amnesia, met up with him. And they discussed, and basically 8 brought up to 7 that he should probably just go out on a whim that day, rather than go pick up the Master. Don't worry about any of it, in order to preserve his own future. The non-canon explanation is that the scanner was fucked. That's what I've always said. That when the Master did damage to the TARDIS, the scanner was fucked for a bit. So, yeah. The Doctor's gunned down. Bit weird he doesn't regenerate at all while that's going on, but he might have been holding it off because of the fact that there were so many people near him. So, enter Dr. Grace Holloway. She's known as Amazing Grace by her hospital. She's an incredible surgeon, and she's genuinely wonderful. But she's tired of life, and she's in a dead-end relationship. She's also on call at work, so she has to leave an opera show, which I always thought was a bit out of place. But America. So, yeah, they go through all of that, and the Doctor's rushed in. Grace tries to operate on him, but naturally, Time Lord physiology is nothing like human physiology, so without putting too fine a point on it, she kills him. Grace is the one that kills the Doctor. And almost killed him for good. The anesthetic almost destroyed the regenerative process. That was a terrible imitation, but that's exactly what McGann says later. So, he's put in the morgue, and eventually, around the stroke of midnight, while comparing it to the scene from Frankenstein of the monster coming to life, which, I don't remember his name, Tim, maybe? His name was Tim. Anyway, the guy that was guarding the morgue that night, who was watching Frankenstein while this is all going on. As the clock strokes midnight, the Doctor's reborn on his favourite world. And he sits up. Now, the effect was supposed to be that his eyes were glowing, but instead they just had like light shining on his eyes to the point where it's like, as opposed to, you get this for free, by the way. So yeah, the Doctor breaks out of the morgue. Tim passes out because what the fuck just happened? Oh my god. Do you ever just think you're losing the plot? Okay, so yeah. I love this regeneration, it's one of my favourites. Not as good as the one of the 8th Doctor regenerating into his next incarnation, which I don't think today is the right time to get into this. So we'll continue without mentioning that. I will actually have time to point that out very soon. I've got about 11 days until the anniversary as of filming this. So bloody hell, 11 days. Wow. So yeah. Sorry, I had a moment for a second. Yeah, so the Doctor breaks out of the morgue and stumbles through the hospital while covered in his shroud. And then it's revealed. Meanwhile, I'll explain what was revealed in a sec, sorry. Meanwhile, the Death Worm Morphin that is the Master leached onto the ambulance driver, Bruce. And the Masters are also reborn. So the Doctor stumbles through the hospital and his face is reflected in, I think it was 8 mirrors. Let me check that. It's very, very, very difficult to I think it was 8. I don't think it matters. But yeah, symbolic. So the whole thing with that, what was I saying? So he sees his reflection in 8 mirrors and his reply, who am I? So, moving on. He looks for clothes and there's all sorts he finds. He eventually goes for a costume that someone had in their locker of Wild Bill Hickok, which the costume was actually mentioned earlier in the film by the other hospital staff member that was talking to Tim. So yeah, the Doctor dresses as Wild Bill Hickok. However, he makes a point of chucking away the gun holster, which, again, we'll get to that another day. I will talk about the comparative moments of regenerations when I get to the regeneration. So, the Doctor is very confused. The Master kills Bruce's wife. So, the Doctor's lurking about with no shoes, still with the tag on his toe, and still with the, I think it was a stencil or something, I don't remember. Basically the operating apparatus that is still in him. Grace quits following her boss's decision to burn the Doctor's X-ray. The thing with Grace, and this I literally can't talk about because I don't know what's going to happen with regards to this plot. This gets picked up in the comics, and I've actually got the comic above me. Grace, following her meetings with the Doctor, will, and I'll put a better point on it when I do the comics, Grace will start trying to hold back death for the human race. Start using Time Lord DNA that she gets from the tissue that the Master spat at her, which we haven't got to yet in the film, but I'm not going to explain the whole plot. I've gone point by point so far, but I'm going to start summarising a bit more. But Grace is very obsessed with the idea of holding back death because I believe her mother died of a terminal illness when she was a kid, and it's why she's a doctor now, because she wants to hold back death. So Grace quits, and as she's leaving, the Doctor starts. It's not really harassing her, it's more begging for help. But she takes it as harassment, which is fair. Strange man, dressed like a lunatic. It's gonna happen. So, when she thinks she's in the last of him, she then gets into a car, and he's in there, and she stops trying to get rid of him when she realises that it's the same wiring she put in there. So she takes him back to hers. Brian's left, which, no great loss. Who the fuck is Brian? Like, so the Doctor explains the process of regeneration. Grace thinks he's a lunatic still. And there's a lot of that. So eventually, when she's making very little progress on figuring out what he is and what she can learn from him, the Doctor suggests going out for a walk. And Grace is like, yeah, good idea. We need to go out for a walk. So she gives him some of Ryan's old shoes, which fit him perfectly. And running back with those shoes gives him a jolt of memory. He remembers who he is. He is the Doctor. And he kisses Grace, which was a point of contention, and to be honest, I don't think it should have been. I like the Doctor having romantic connections with some of his companions. Not all of them, and I think it's gotten silly recently. Admittedly, it's only just gotten silly because of Yaz. And that was only really silly because of how late they actually confirmed that. Yeah, with 3 episodes left, is not the time to be doing that. But enough about an era that I hate. Let's go back to talking about an era that I love. So, the Doctor is all happy, and then the Master uses Chang Li, who's human, obviously, to open the Eye of Harmony. Now, the Eye of Harmony is not in the TARDIS, it can't be. So I headcanon it as the Eye Conduit. It's a receptacle, basically, so that the Eye of Harmony on Gallifrey can feed energy to every single TARDIS. The only thing is, the Eye of Harmony explanation is stupid because evidently Gallifrey being gone didn't change things. But, like, we're just going to assume that the Eye of Harmony stayed in place after that, but couldn't be seen. Just because... why the fuck not? So... Gallifrey... actually, there is an explanation for that, but enough about my Doctor Who theories. Yeah, so... the Eye of Harmony is opened, they manage to use it to look through the Doctor's eye. We get constant discussions about the Doctor being half human, which... why, exactly? Americans, that's why. Leakley. I have a lot of disdain for the Leakley Bible, because it was shit. The Doctor and the Master being brothers, the Doctor being half human, Bruiser being the Doctor's father, or grandfather, I don't remember. Look, I have my criticisms of the Cartmel Master Plan, because it wasn't a particularly good idea. Like, at all. So... well, it was a decent idea for a dying show, but the second the show regained its legs, no. And this is where my criticism of The Timeless Child comes in. But again, we're talking about the Jodie era, which I cannot stand. I think the entire thing was shit. With the exception of 3 episodes. 4 if I'm feeling kind. Anyway, so, the Doctor is half human, blah 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 blah. The Cartmel Master Plan is out the window from this. But, yeah, it doesn't really serve a great deal of purpose, and I'm sure it would have if I'd have gone to series, but look, it is a crime that we lost out on a Doctor Who series starring Paul McGann as the 8th Doctor. It is a crime that none of the showrunners since have rectified that with a spin-off. But the 90s series that they never got around to actually making because Americans are stupid and would rather watch a crappy soap opera than a movie imitating crappy soap operas. So I don't like the half-human thing, but I also don't care about it because it went nowhere. So, because the Doctor is half-human, it has no impact. Like, why did they need to mention that? So, the Master can see through the Doctor's eyes, and the Doctor realises this, and he's concerned, and blah 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 blah. It's a completely tedious moment, because Grace is back to thinking he's a psychopath. Thankfully, the Doctor has the laws of physics being broken on his side. as he's able to step through the glass of Grace's house to prove he's actually not insane and the world is fucked. So, yeah. So, the Doctor and Grace go to get a beryllium clock thing so they can attach it to the TARDIS. It makes absolutely no sense what happens after this, because they get it. The Master is the one that drives them, posing as Bruce, because the Doctor doesn't quite recognise him. The Master, when he's revealed, spits this goo on Grace, the tissue that I was talking about earlier. I don't care. They get to the reveal of an atomic clock. By the way, it's New Year's Eve 1999. It's the turn of the millennium. So, after sneaking their way in, I love the use of jelly babies, by the way, throughout the movie. At various points, the Doctor just gives people jelly babies, and it's nice to see that he's still the Doctor. And the Doctor is shown having some foresight for people, like, regarding people's futures here, which odd, but if they're important people in the future, I don't really mind. So they go and try and steal the clock thing. The Doctor's not got his sonic screwdriver, so he's having to do it the old-fashioned way. So they steal it. The Master's been there. He's attacked guards. He's completely frozen them with that goo. Doctor and Grace are just about able to escape and bike their way back to the TARDIS. And the Doctor has Grace help him set the beryllium clock up on the console. So the thing is, there's discussions about basically the only way for them to fix it is that they'd need to go back in time to before they even arrived, before the eye was open. It makes no sense. Like, and you couldn't even reset the TARDIS's internal clock because that's not how it works. Which is where the movie starts to fall apart. Anyways, the Master shows up. Grace turns out to be possessed now because of the tissue that the Master spat at her. That I like. I don't like that it was done that way, but the Master was always kind of hypnotic in a way, and I like that they've got some kind of mind control going on. So Grace attacks the Doctor. The Doctor's wheeled into the cloister room. By the way, that's not what a cloister is. Yeah, so all that happening, all that stuff, it is what it is at the end of the day. Like, I don't really care at the minute. So the Doctor manages to convince Chang Li that the Master's been lying to him, because the Master promised Li riches beyond his wildest dreams and to go with him as his son almost. Li realises the Master was lying because the Master's been pretending that the Doctor stole the Master's regenerations, which bullshit. So Li defies the Master, and the Master, of course, snaps Li's neck. Why wouldn't he? He gets Grace to set the Doctor up on a podium, and the Master sets himself up on the other. The Eye begins to start trying to... the Master has to recede his possession in order to by sucking the venom out of Grace that looks awfully like a kiss, in order to reopen the eye again. So the Doctor is set up. The Master tries to steal the Doctor's regenerations, and to be honest, the segment gets a bit ridiculous. I'm not going to say that the movie's good. I'm just not. I love that movie, but I'm not going to say it's good. So, yeah, the Master nearly wins, but Grace rushes and goes to try and set that clock. She succeeds. They enter temporal orbit, and she's able to just about save the Doctor, but the Master then kills her. So the Doctor and the Master fight. The Master gets sucked into the eye conduit, and yeah, the Doctor tries to save him, which is good. The Doctor and Master relationship should not be one of loathing, ever. That is an 80s thing. Do not ever go back to it. So, yeah. The Doctor's able to save Changli and Grace with what looks like modern day regeneration energy, but at the time was implied to just be the TARDIS being kind. So, yeah, they survive, and all's good. The Doctor drops them back on Earth, tells Lee to get away next Christmas, and Doctor and Grace part ways, but not before sharing one last kiss. Both of them ask the other to go with them, and neither of them can. The Doctor can't stay on Earth, and Grace can't travel. They both have their own destinies to fulfill. But the Doctor will one day return to Earth for a prolonged period of time. A little bit in the future. Specifically, 20 years. It's just a shame that licensing meant that Grace couldn't have appeared there, because that would have been the perfect time to have reintroduced her. But we'll get to that someday. So, yeah, the TV movie, it's not the best thing in the world, but it gave us the best Doctor and the longest serving Doctor. Seriously, he's got the most content of any Doctor, which is funny when you consider that he's only appeared in one actual episode of the show with new material, which bothers me immensely. I'm still pissed off about the 50th anniversary, and like I say, we'll get to that because I'll start working on that video very, very soon. So, yeah, this movie, it's a very interesting look at what 90s Who could have been. But truth be told, I think there were other things that could have been used as kind of inspirations for 90s Who. As sci-fi was in a very, very beautiful stage at the time, and I think if the BBC had kept production in-house, but maybe joined up with another company to help out, but another British company, no Americans, ever, then we could have had the perfect moment with it. You know, we could have had the we could have had a very, very good revival. But, yeah, it wasn't to be, and we'd only see the Eighth Doctor a couple more times before the revival of the show. Once more, sorry. And when I say see, I mean see. As in moving and talking. And that would be Shada. And I will get to Shada eventually, because I love Shada. I do. But not the one you're expecting when you hear about Shada. I mean the 2003 webcast. So, yeah. I don't know how the reviews are going to go of the Eighth Doctor. I don't have a clue what I'm doing. I want to review the books, but I've only read the first one. Now, I wasn't particularly thrilled with that. Now, don't get me wrong. The Eight Doctors is a glorified previously on. Like, I think it's supposed to give you a general perception of all the Doctors, as a lot of new fans would be starting with those books. Ideally. I don't know how many new fans actually stem from the movie. The reason for the movie's failure actually has absolutely nothing to do with its quality. As much as idiots like to say, oh, they shouldn't have had McCoy in this movie, Regeneration is too confusing. Guys, it's a sci-fi movie. It needed a unique premise. Regeneration is the perfect one. Time travel in and of itself is not helpful, and I'm not gonna lie, there ain't enough time travel in the movie to actually justify considering that. The Seventh Doctor's presence in the movie was necessary. I know McCoy himself says that it was too much, but it wasn't. The regeneration was necessary, and it's bad enough that Paul McGann got to regenerate into Christopher Eccleston without removing the regeneration between McCoy and McGann, because people, for some reason, I don't like that adding new Doctors in between. It annoys me to no end that that's something people do. The movie wouldn't have succeeded if they'd have done that either. What they didn't need to be doing was all the half-human crap. So, yeah. The producer of this film... No, the writer of this film, Matthew Jacobs. He was the son of someone that worked on the Hartnell story, The Gunfighters. Matthew was actually taken to visit the set of The Gunfighters while it was filming in the 60s. So I like that it was a British man with actual history with the show writing it. And Matthew still engages with the Doctor Who fandom to this day. He did have a rather shit film about his kind of history with the Doctor Who fandom. Doctor Who Am I? It's one of the most boring things I've ever seen in the cinema. But I don't really blame him for that. Like, the Doctor Who fandom are vile. Like, I know that some of you, and I use this term a bit loosely because I'm a bit funny about who I don't know fully but call mates. But I know I get on with some of you in Doctor Who fandom, but as a collective, this fandom's vile. Like, and always has been. And this was in the days where Levine was, like, completely full-on involved, like, with everything that happened. As much as Ian nowadays likes to praise the Eighth Doctor, he was probably the first one in line to have a hissy fit about the film. But the movie became a punchline while people were very revisionist about 80s Doctor Who. Including the dreaded line in RTD's Queer as Folk, Paul McGann doesn't count. Look, I love RTD to the back of my heart. Like from the bottom of my heart, I love RTD. But if I don't know if it was really his view, or if it was just something that he thought would be a funny thing for the characters to say because it was such a prominent sentiment. But I'm not particularly... This is one of the things with Russell. He seems to always avoid touching the Eighth Doctor about anything. But he's also the one that made it abundantly clear that he was part of the show's history. So, although strictly speaking, that was Paul Cornell. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not saying Russell doesn't like the Eighth Doctor. I'm just saying that I'm a bit cautious of him because of it. But yeah, the movie was worth it because we got the best incarnation of the Doctor. In fact, I'd say this Doctor, more than any of the others, is the Doctor. A definite article, you might say. Right. So, yeah. This was the TV movie. I was going to make this a more heavily edited affair originally. I was actually writing a script. It didn't get very far in production. I was going to properly edit this with footage and stuff, but of all aspects of the show to not do that with. So, yeah. The TV movie was a wonderful time, but it was still a bit of a mess. So, I think next time I'll be talking about Big Finish because, like, when it comes to the Eighth Doctor stuff, next week is going to be a Zelda thing. As believe me, I have something to say. I really do. Like, I am not amused about certain events, so I think there's only one thing we can cover for next movie night. So, with that, I leave you as the Eighth Doctor is the best Doctor. And the next Eighth Doctor review will be a collective review of the first part of the Charlie era, I think. So, take care, people. I'll see you all next time. Bye.